So we're back for part three. You know what I was just saying to myself, or the something I've been doing for the first three videos, or I guess this is the third. Something I learned in college, and it doesn't even relate to this whatsoever. But again, I'm just kind of, I guess maybe to recap is this is funny. This is going to be hilarious. You can tell by my demeanor. My intent is to go through the comedy process of from the time that someone, or I think of a funny thought in my head, or I think of a funny thought, and to get it on stage. But anyway, before I start this video rolling, I always do it just kind of off the cuff. If I start thinking a bit too much about it, that's when I start to get nervous and anxious. So I'll go do something else. I'll get my mind off it, and then I'll come and roll right into it, like within a minute, because I may have said it before, when I think too much about it, the time I faint it before stage is when I get nervous. So I just want to get right into it. But I just go and something I learned in college. I took corrections. I think that's what it was. But before a speech or before you get on stage, a good thing is ding dong, bing bong, King Kong. Lowers your voice for some reason. Anyway, that has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about. But I just thought I would bring that up. Ding dong, bing bong, King Kong. So I popped the pimple and said those three phrases before we started. So anyway, we're back, or I'm back, I guess, and maybe you're back too, obviously, if you're watching. So I worked on some stuff. It's been about maybe 3 weeks when I talked about the procrastinating part. Here's where it starts to kick in. I am busy with my personal life, work, kids, and all that good stuff in life. Sometimes I have time to think and write, and sometimes I don't. But sometimes when I do, I just kind of shrug it off, so the procrastinate. So that's why I'm liking these videos. I went back and watched it a couple times, but it's keeping me on track. So it's been about 2 or 3 weeks. So I did write some more stuff, narrowed a few more things down. I'm not going to go with the one-liners. That's one thing that's changed. But I think all of the other topics that I talked about last time that I'm going to go through. So here's where I'm talking about where, yes, it's all fun and games and stuff, and it's funny on stage, but when you go through the process, or when I go through the process, like now, I'm nervous. I'm actually nervous. So when I was writing, the last time I wrote this, so since the last time that I was on video here, again, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did sit down one specific night to do some more writing. And when I get into it and I start writing, and it's great, and I'm thinking about it in my head, and I'm visualizing myself being on stage, but sometimes I visualize too much, and I actually get nervous when I'm writing. That because I'm visualizing so much, and I stop. Like, so I've gotten so far here, and I think that night I maybe wrote for about an hour and a half or something like that. And then things started going good, and then again I got nervous, and I'm like, okay, I gotta put it aside. So that's how I work, and that's how it works. So I come back to it a little bit more. So in my head, and I went back another day and wrote a little bit more. So anyway, that's again the process of the comedy for me, from getting from the thought in my head to all the steps and rehearsing and writing and changing things, and finally getting that final material on stage, and hopefully getting some laughs. So I guess what I'm going to do this video is just basically read out what I wrote down. I guess this would be my initial presentation on stage, kind of word for word. I didn't quite finish it. You know, I've gotten maybe half or 3/4 written. The last few topics I just kind of had to jot it down. So I'm just going to read what I have here. I might stop from time to time. It might get quiet because I might be thinking, you know, I don't know, fast forward through it or keep watching. I don't care what you do, really, to be honest with you. It's more so for me, but if I get a giggle out of it from somebody else, even better. And yeah, I'm just going to try to keep it as raw as I can, and tell you exactly what's going through my head when I'm writing it, what I'm thinking it, and stuff like that, because I write a lot and I'll scratch some out. And again, I think maybe what I talked about before is my own biggest, where I struggle with, I guess, is I try to remember word for word. and that's where I get on stage and I'm almost like kind of reading it in the air. And you shouldn't do that. I like going with the flow, and comics, to me, it's good when they go with the flow. If you see them word for word, it takes the humor away from it, in my opinion. But again, with comedy, there's some key words that you got to put in there that get the laugh at the right time, right? So that's where I do a lot of my tinkering. I can write the bulk of it and think about the bulk of it, but it's getting those keywords, and I cross it out, and sometimes I overthink it. You know, maybe these words are too elaborate for this audience. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm overthinking it now. So let me just kind of roll into this. So I think I just changed the order a little bit maybe from the last time, but that doesn't really matter now. So I'm just kind of going to go into it, I guess. So as I said before, to me, one of my biggest things too is the main introduction, and going into each bit, each topic of how do you engage the audience, how do you get them in there, right? So you don't lose it. So when is the punchline, or when is the funny part, the start, the middle, the end, whatever. So that's, again, I still and probably always will struggle with that, and that's where I change a lot in my different writing styles. Actually, I think I wrote a lot of this again that night, where I sat down for an hour or two, and I stopped because of being nervous. Again, just visualizing in my head being on stage, and I got nervous. I was there by myself. Can you imagine getting nervous by yourself and nobody around? Well, I guess you can imagine some people have a lot of anxiety, but I just visualized. So I had to take myself out of the situation. But I remember, I don't know, maybe it was 3 or 4 days later, and another issue I was having was, I forget what the segue was, or it was to lead into something else. I think it was the Smelly Cat and Flintstones and whatnot like that. How do I lead into that was my biggest thing. And I was driving down the road on the highway one day, just by myself again, and I think it just kind of, it came to me. I wasn't even thinking about comedy, thinking about something else, and that introduction just came to me. I'm not reading it out now because I want to, again, leave some surprises to the end, but that introduction just came to me. I pulled over to the side of the road. I had a yellow sticky. I just jotted it down and then kind of put it into here. Anyway, so again, I'm just, again, want to tell you the process that I go through. The comedy, it's not always funny, you know, it's nerve-wracking. You get anxious, and anyway, I guess that's just the way it is. But as long as the end result is you get some humor out of it, and I have a good time, we all have a good time, I guess that's all that matters. So, like I said, I always do things on pen. I'm not a computer guy. I'm not a technological guy. I like, that word doesn't even sound right, but anyway. I like the old penmanship. I like writing stuff. So I always write my stuff down. Cue cards, paper, scrap paper, that's just how I like to do it. I don't like to sit down and type. So each time I go through, like, this is just the start, or not, no, this is not the start. I guess 2 videos were the start. And as you've seen in the first video, I had maybe 15, 20 pieces of paper. I'm down to 3 now, well, maybe 4 or 5 because I didn't finish it. But then again, I'll get down to a little bit more, and then maybe I'll get down to some cue cards. So that's what I do. I'll maybe start to elaborate to myself so much, and then I get down enough to have some cue cards on stage. So then I kind of just maybe pick it up and have some keywords or key phrases. That'll just key in my mind to kind of start rolling. So, but as it is for now, I'm just going to read it out as if I were just kind of starting to get on stage, coming in for a comedy open mic night, just an amateur open mic night, and this is how I would do it. So, this is what I got from my mic, some caulking. Caulking! Honest to God, I did not plan this, but this is caulking that I just hit around. I'm doing some work around the place. Caulking, this is fucking ironic. I didn't plan that. So, as I thought about this, I thought I'm going to start with my homeless man bit. And again, I struggled with the introduction to that. All the introductions of the different bits I struggled with, but the main introduction of getting up on stage, right, because that's where people are most judging you. So I thought about this a lot and changed it many times, but this is kind of what I come up with. So again, I'm going to read through. I may pause. I'm going to let you know my thoughts going through this if something pops up, because I had a lot of stuff crossed out and blah, blah, blah. So, okay, just getting to my open mic night. Things are going good. I just woke up from the bathroom floor from fainting. And I carry on. So you know what? I'm getting nervous now. It's only me here. I honestly still don't know to this point if I'm going to show this to anybody, or maybe keep it to myself, but I'm getting nervous, and it could only be me here. So this is kind of the anxiety that we go through. So you can imagine what it's going to be like if we have future videos when it gets closer to time. And I'm going to look down a lot too. I'm not, obviously you need to make eye contact and you can't be reading word for word when you're on stage, but for right now, as we start, I'm just kind of reading down here. Hello, welcome everyone. I have to apologize. I'm running a bit late. I got a bit sidetracked on the way here. I ran into one of our local homeless guys just down the road here. And as I usually do, I can't help but stop and chat, and out of curiosity, I wonder how he got to living on the street. No handouts. I chatted to fill me in on how... Okay, that doesn't... Okay, the last gentleman I chatted to filled me in on how 10 years ago he had a job. So, okay, I'm reading this now, and it kind of doesn't make sense to me. Sometimes when I write, I just fucking sit down and I just write and write and write. And it does make sense up here, but it doesn't necessarily make sense down here. That's why the teachers always say you should proofread, which I never did. But now I understand that I should have proofread in school. I probably would have done a lot better. Anyway, that's not a big deal at this point to me. I may have lost you a while ago, but it doesn't matter to me because, again, this is basically the first draft of being on stage. So, so I'm basically just going on to a description of meeting this homeless man, getting into deep into conversation, me being me, wondering how we come to live on the street. The latest gentleman I chatted to filled me in on how about 10 years ago he had a good job, a beautiful girlfriend, a bright future, until everything changed in the blink of an eye. This homeless guy was honest. He was poor. He had a, yeah, okay. This homeless guy was honest though. He said, self-admitted, he had a poor work ethic, low motivation, took things for granted, etc., etc. Not your typical sad story of living on the streets, but a sad story nonetheless. He goes on to describe the last few years of struggle. By the time he got himself motivated, took some training, he still could not get back on his feet. Now here's the typical sad story of a homeless guy, begging for money, living in the park, family long shunned him away, etc., etc. He was really sucking me in with this story. So this is the part where I shouldn't be reading this word for word, and again, I wouldn't be on there. This is more of an ad lib, and this is kind of a story, and the punchline's kind of in near the end. So this is where, yeah, it's not the word for word like this. This doesn't sound probably great at all to you guys. It doesn't even really sound that good to me. So anyway, he was living in the park, family long, shunned him away, etc. He was really sucking me in. I was hanging on his every word, of his life story, and then my phone rang. And we were deep in the conversation, and I felt sorry for him, and I didn't want to be interrupted, and I felt embarrassed. And then all of a sudden, the homeless guy, okay. So I'm getting to the punchline where it's the homeless guy that has the phone. A $600 iPhone, okay? So basically the gist of it is I meet a homeless guy on the street, I get deep into conversation with him, I have a lot of empathy, I feel for him, I get the whole life sad story, and then as we're talking and we're deep into conversation and we're bonding, and everything is going good and we're connecting, and then we're interrupted by my phone ring. How embarrassed am I? I'm kind of a well-to-do guy. I have my own cell phone. I'm going to a restaurant and whatnot like that, and this guy's living on the street, and I'm reaching around in my pocket to shut the ringer off, and then all of a sudden he pulls out his $600 iPhone and then starts talking, and then maybe even shushes me. So that's where my intent is to go with that. And I've thought about that part in my head for a while, a long time. But when I'm reading it out, and maybe reading it out to you or this video or whatnot, it's not as easy. So that's what I got to get over and go through this a lot. And maybe just, that's where I maybe have on my cue card of homeless guy, iPhone, something like that. And then just let it roll and hopefully go into this whole story and make them laugh. So what I have on the other side of this paper is, so that's basically all I wrote about that. Get this, he's actually talking to another homeless guy in Calgary. So I have here, I have a side note to myself. It says, maybe act out or add some more of the homeless guy on phone. Okay, so I'm probably going to elaborate to that. And what I mean by that is, and I just read there's another homeless guy in Calgary, so maybe there's a bunch of them around that are well-to-do, and there's just this subculture, right, where they're calling each other like, yeah, how you doing tonight? Oh, you only got $1,000 in? Yeah, well, I got a sucker on the line right in front of me, so let me call you back, something like that. So that's just a little cliff note that I have to myself, and that's just something that I could be driving down the road again, and then something will pop in my mind, and then I'll pull over and jot it down and maybe add to it. So here's one of my segues into it. So what I have here is I pause, I take a drink, and segue into the next homeless bit. So I have kind of two homeless bits, or I break it into two homeless bits. I think when I talked in the first installment of this is, because I'm new to this and I don't want to stress myself too much, I break it down into smaller compartments or smaller bits. So this is basically two. And this is going to a story where I've watched some homeless guys or observed a few homeless guys, and some of them are pretty good, There's some of them are quite the entrepreneurs. And it relates back to a story with my older son, and we were just one night at a hotel in Halifax, and we were sitting outside, and it was on a busy corner, and we were watching like 3 or 4 homeless guys, and they were working the place. Like, I mean, good. So this is what I have for this. So I pause, take a drink, and this is my segue into the next homeless bit. I've actually been compiling some observations on homeless people. I want to stop here. So I have the word compiling scratched out. So I started this, and I must have come back to it and read through it, and I don't know why, but I just didn't think maybe that word compiling would work. So that's what I'm saying about, I get stressed a lot at sometimes I think words will work here, or maybe the audience wouldn't understand this word, not like a literature guy or a articulate guy, but some words the audience may not understand. And if it's a keyword and they don't understand it, then you may lose them on the whole bit. And that's where I stress out a bit. So that's what I do a lot too. So I'll write, I could write a line, maybe a 8, 9, 10 word line, and change a word, and then come back, and then change another word. And by, a month or two later, the whole sentence could be changed but mean the same. I don't know if that makes sense, but it kind of does to me. But anyway, that's where, again, sometimes keywords at the right place could make or break a bit. So compiling. So pause, take a drink, segue to next homeless bit. I've actually been compiling some observations on homeless people in every city I go to, and I've come to the conclusion that, by far, the homeless crew in blank, wherever, I insert city here, wherever you're performing, if you're performing in Arkansas, you say, or the Arkansas are the smartest homeless people. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. They're the most cunning, entrepreneurial homeless people around. So then I wrote down here, so I give a couple of examples, but I would elaborate more on that. So they smile and make eye contact. They say thank you, even when you don't give them any money. There's no guilt. One guy, what did I say here? One guy was dancing, going from car to car. One of the smartest guy was carrying his dog in one arm. Yeah, this was true. Like, what a better way to beg for money, right? Like, this guy, and they're actually both of these guys, and it was on the same Same corner, maybe not at the same time. But one guy, he was going from car to car, and he would beg and nobody's hand, but he would dance to the next car and be boing. Even if they said no, he was happy. And then this other guy had a puppy. Like, man, these guys are fucking good. This other guy had a puppy with him. And I think every car gave him money. So, yeah, they're not maybe just homeless guys. They're pretty smart. So, again, I just have some things that I jotted down that I'm going to write more on. So I have one guy was dancing, going from car to car. One of the smartest was carrying his dog in one arm, bucket in the other. Some of them offer receipts for tax purposes. Some of them you can e-transfer to a Tangerine account. Can you imagine a homeless guy coming up to your car begging for money? You're like, I got no cash. Oh, do you want to e-transfer me then? My Tangerine account number is a sign that reads, I accept Bitcoins. Fuck yeah. Alright, now I'm starting to feel good about this. So when I first started, you can probably tell by my demeanor, I wasn't into it, but now I'm kind of getting into it, and more so just these lines. I'm just reading these one lines and it's just triggering a lot more in my head. So that's what I hope to present when I'm on stage. The last thing I want to do is get up there and read word for word. I think that's what makes me most nervous is A, forgetting something, and B, reading word for word. That's not funny. But just getting up there and being yourself and letting it flow. So that's my main goal, is to get up there and just say what's on my mind, and hopefully other people think I'm funny too. So I just go on a bit again about the homeless. I watched for a couple hours on one particular street, and when it started to rain, they switched to rain gear. Brand new Helly Hansen stuff. They're using sunscreen. Come on, what homeless person uses sunscreen? So anyway, these are stuff I just jotted down. So here I'm trying to work myself into another segue. So I'm basically done with the homeless bit. So here's where I struggle. How do I go into the next? Let the audience know that that's over. So I have here to myself. I said slow her down, pause, take a drink of water. So that's my way of leading into the next segue. Oh yeah, I forgot my mic. You probably haven't heard anything I said for the last couple of minutes. So I'm not going to start over. Hang out in front of the weed store. Okay, so how I'm going to segue into this is, the real smart homeless people, they hang out in front of the weed store. Yes, I still call it the weed store. So then I'm going to go on into, I'm old school pot. We've never really called it cannabis till this legalization. I'm still trying to grasp all these new changes to buying pot legally. No more sneaking around. So again, I'm reading word from word here, which is not funny, but since I wrote this part down, I don't think I read it. I'm reading it now and presenting it to you like I haven't read it. So I don't think I read it, and I haven't written a lot on this. So I'll just basically read out what I have. I have a lot of scratches here, so which tells me it's really new. So again, I'm just going on to talk about old school pot, going through the analogies of cannabis to a pot dealer, the staff ratio, clientele, weed on credit. The government doesn't let you give weed on credit. Location change. And then I'm going through the analogy between cannabis and pot dealer. I don't have a lot written on that, so I'm not going to go into that much of that right now. And again, you know what? I think I talked about it in the last video. To me, at one point, that was really, really funny. But as I'm reading it now, I don't know if it'll go over well on stage. I guess it depends on me. It depends on how I write it and how I present it. But anyway, we'll see at the time. So that's that. So that was the pot one. So then I have just take a drink, segue into the next, which is about I'm just going to read what I have here. There's not a lot left here. I'm just going to read this page because I don't have a lot written on it. So maybe the next one I'll focus more on this, and then have everything concrete, and then start my real rehearsing. I've been watching a lot more TV. I almost forgot my mic again. I've been watching a lot more TV the last few months with all this COVID going on. I find myself becoming more observant and paying more attention to the finer details of TV shows. Could be the COVID, could be the weed. Nonetheless, I'd like to share with you a few of my observations. So that's how I have my introduction to there. Then all I have written here is Friends and Flintstones. And in brackets I have not sure which one to start with first. So I know I'm going to introduce like that, but I don't know if I'm going to go into my Friends bit first or go into the Flintstones bit first. So that's all I have there. Then my last one, I have a segue to, I read a stupid fact in a reputable magazine. And I talked about this the last video about the shark attack. I think I just mentioned shark attack, but I didn't go into it. So I did actually read this in Men's Health magazine. It was a small article, and it said 65% of shark attacks are provoked. Does that make sense to you? I would think 0% of shark attacks are provoked. And that's what I'm going to go on with. I think that's okay. I think that number is a bit high. I would think 0% of shark attacks are provoked. So they're saying out of 100 people on a tropical beach, 65% of them are thinking, and then I have to myself act out scenarios. So I'm going to think more about that of, you know, maybe a husband and wife on the beach, and he's bored, he gets up and he's like, all right, honey, I think I'm going to go out and punch a shark in the nose, or I don't know. I haven't thought a whole lot about that yet, but I think there's something there with the shark attack, just because it was a stupid fact written in a book. 65%. Really? What else? Oh, okay. A long time ago, I remember reading, it was about golf, and it was a pro golfer was tied for 72, like a pro golfer. Like, why would they keep statistics that high? But I'm thinking, a pro, like 72, I don't golf, but I'm pretty sure I can beat 72. Like, you know, I can maybe be 71, but as a pro, anything but 72 may not be. Again, that's one of those things that maybe was funny at the time, but it's not now. All right, I blabbered on a lot more than I anticipated, but maybe I lost you a long time ago, but again, anyway, we'll see where it goes. So, yeah, I want to keep working on that, and hopefully, again, be up on stage. I was going to go to a comedy club last weekend. I do have a place picked out that I'm going to go to. It's local, or somewhat local. It's only about an hour away, 45 minutes away. I was going to go last weekend. I need to get comfortable, so I got to go a couple times to get in that environment. I've never been to that bar, and just, again, I haven't been to a comedy bar in a long time. I just got to get myself, I guess, my mind set into it before I actually get on stage and do something and transfer this into some laughter. All right, well, thanks again. If you're still there, see ya.